Hello, friends. I'm Dr. Jamali, psychiatrist, currently working in the UK. Welcome to my YouTube channel, Dr. J Official. And today we are going to talk about preprint. So, preprint is actually a work you've done which you have not yet submitted for publication. So, for example, you've done a literature review, or you've done say, a review article, or even a systematic review, or you've done a clinical trial or a research study, could be any qualitative or quantitative, but you're still working on it. You've started working on the manuscript. You've almost completed, but you're still unsure whether this manuscript is ready for publication or not. So preprint could be one of the ways to test whether the manuscript which you've completed or you're on the verge of completion is worth of publication or not. So basically what happens is that your manuscript, you are submitting that work in a repository, and that is, so you submit in that repository, it gets accepted, and then it remains for others to access. So it is just like, once your article is published and then it is published and others can view it and read it. The same thing is with the preprint, that you submit that work in a repository. Once it gets accepted, it is published, but it is not a publication. It is called preprint, right? So preprint, you can also say that a work before publication. So let's talk about the advantages and the disadvantages of preprint, and I will also share a couple of my work and how I used the preprint and how it benefited me. Right? So, what are the pros and cons of preprint? So let's talk about the strengths first. The biggest benefit here is that it's free. You submit this in any repository. Now, when I say repository, what does that mean is it's just like their portals. Like you have journals. Most of the journals, or rather some of the journals, they have their own repository. So what you can do is to say, if you're planning to publish your work in this particular journal, you can check that whether they've got a repository where you can submit your preprint. But it doesn't matter that you have to submit your preprint, your manuscript in only their repository. It could be in any other journal repository as well. It doesn't matter. So, but just make sure that these repositories are linked with reputed journals uh, to get more authenticity. But you could submit in any repository. It doesn't necessarily have to be of the journal you are aiming to publish, and there are no charges because repository is something that you're submitting, and it goes to the public domain. And the aim is that it is shared with the wider audience, and you're hoping that you get some feedback, so that whatever feedback you get, you try to constructive. I mean, you try to work on it, and then you can amend your manuscript so that you feel confident that it is ready for publication. So the first advantage is that it is free. There are no article processing charges. Now, this article processing charge is a key for any publication. I will talk about that, in my future videos. But that is very tricky, and that is something which has always been a hurdle for every researcher. But we will talk about that later on. Now, the second advantage is that it's instant. So, based on my experience, whenever I submitted, it took me maximum a week for them to respond that it has been published. So the processing time is extremely quick. And as I mentioned before, I think the main purpose of submitting a preprint is to obtain some feedback. And I've done that personally, where I've received the feedback and I've worked on it, and I felt that my my manuscript is a lot stronger now, and I feel confident enough that this is worth publishing now. So you get that constructive feedback through preprint. The other possibility is that when you're submitting the preprint, there are also opportunities to collaborate. And I can give you my example that I submitted a research proposal, in as a preprint, and then I was sharing that um, with many professors to see whether there is a possibility to collaborate, and that's how one of the professors got back to me, and then it turned out that we were doing something very similar, and then now it has turned out that there is a possibility that we may collaborate. So this is a good way of sharing your work and obtaining feedback, and also a possibility to collaborate. You may also get invitations from journals where they may offer you to submit your work in their journal for publication. But just be careful with that, because there are quite a few predatory journals, so you have to be very, very careful. Again, I will talk about that in my future videos. But just be careful. Once you submit your preprint, then you will get numerous emails from various journals. Um, so I will tell you in future that, like in my future videos, that how to address that. The other advantage of preprint is that it could be cited as well. So what do I mean by this? That so when you are submitting an article, uh, and it is published, others can cite your work and reference it. The same thing applies to the preprint as well, because it is submitted in a repository. It goes into the public domain, wider audience. People can cite your work, although it doesn't carry that much strength as compared to a journal publication, but it is still cited. So again, even if say you have submitted this preprint, and it will take a while for you to submit it for publication in a journal, that work still remains. And the other advantage is that, say, if it's a very novel work where it has not been done before, your work could set a precedent that this is there was a thought, and then even if others are picking on it, they will reference your work. So you can retain that originality, that this is your work, and then eventually it has been carried on, even if you have there has been some delays in getting your work published, but still the preprint is cited. So again, that is one of the advantages. And then again, when you're submitting a preprint, that doesn't mean that it's a final version. No, the repositories give you an option to submit various versions. So say you've submitted this and you find that, oh yes, I think this needs to be modified, or you've received some feedback. So although you're still not ready to submit, you you have you've got that feedback, you've worked on it, and then you can resubmit. So that will be, say, a second or a third version of the preprint. So they will give you that option to submit other versions. So again, you're constantly working on your work, and that is the advantage that you're getting that instant live feedback. Uh, it is like a review before a peer review, that you're getting that feedback, you're working on it, and then you're resubmitting it in the repository as another version, and then again you may get feedback. So that is one of the advantages. So we've talked about the pros. What about the disadvantage? So again, it is submitted in a repository, and because it is instant publication, which means that it has not gone through a structured, intensive peer review, which is very, very important um, for publication, because that is what the essence of publication is, that you are submitting your work, it is being reviewed by your peers, and then you're getting that constructive feedback. Either they accept it or reject it. Even if they think that yes, there is a potential, they ask you to review whether it is a major review or a minor review, but then you are working on it. So the preprint articles, they, although you get the feedback, but they are not peer reviewed. So that is one of the drawbacks. And that is when, even if somebody is citing your preprint, it will not carry that weight, that strength, because it has not been peer reviewed. So again, that is one of the disadvantages. They don't accept everything. Like, they would accept literature reviews, they would accept clinical trials, they may accept case reports, uh, but you cannot submit a commentary or an editorial or nothing of that sort, or a short commentary. No, it's like it has to be uh, a literature review or a case report or any clinical trial. So there are so it there are limitations there. Once you have submitted, you cannot withdraw. You can submit multiple versions, but you cannot withdraw. So that is one of the drawbacks. Now, having discussed about the pros and cons, let me straight away get to or share my work related to pre-print. So this is the first example. If you can see this, identification of cognitive impairment in cardiovascular rehabilitation. So I completed this pilot cross-sectional study. Sorry, I did not even complete. It was just a research proposal. So I had only drafted a research proposal. I received the ethics approval, but uh, I did not. Yeah, I think I did not start the study because I think COVID happened and there was a lot of delay there. I did not start. So while there was COVID and unfortunately I couldn't start the study, I thought that let me submit this and see what whether I get any feedback and is there anything I need to improve on my protocol. So what I did is I submitted this as a preprint, and this is how it looks. So as you can see, identification of cognitive impairment. in cardiovascular rehabilitation. It's a cross-sectional study protocol. So I submitted this in 2021. As you can see, there is a date mentioned here. And this was uh, submitted and published. Now, when I submitted this, and as I said that I was waiting for the study to commence, I received their feedback, and they suggested that maybe I can work on bits and pieces and all. So, but that was very useful. I worked on it, and it really helped. And the reason why it was so helpful, because I did not start my study yet, so the trial yet, which means that I was I could take that on board, so that I can use that in my study. So again, the feedback was very useful. So this was published in the repository in 2021, and then when I completed the study, it was then eventually published in 2023. So, and as you can see now here, there is no mention of protocol. This was a pilot cross-sectional study. So the preprint was protocol, and the eventual publication in a journal was a study. So, so as you can see that how I use my preprint. Now, because I found success in this, I thought I will repeat this again, and that is what I did. That is what I did, and this is another example. So this is very recent, this year, where I'm working on a research protocol, and this is kind of a research proposal. And so what happened was I started this as a review article. I thought that I will do a literature review on this. But whilst I was working on it, I realized that I found a very good research question where we can do a study on this. So whilst I was working on this, I ended up finding a research question. So as you can see, I end this review article with a research question. So now what I've done is I started this as a review article, but now it has kind of become a research proposal. So again, I'm unsure whether what am I going to do with this? Shall I submit this as a literature review, or shall I complete the study and then submit? So what I've done is this is the preprint version now. It is there in the public domain. Um, and I haven't received any feedback yet because it is pretty recent, but it has been viewed by many people. So that's very reassuring. So now I'm still working on it, and as you can see, you can include versions here. So again, uh, it is still work in progress, but this is what the advantage of pre-printing, that you're doing something, you've done a substantial amount of work where you can expect some feedback. So you submit this in the repository, it gets published quickly, and then you wait for the feedback, and then you can use that whilst you're working towards towards a possibility whether to leave it as a review article or uh, progress to a study. So I'm still thinking about it. These were a couple of examples. I hope it's a lot clear now. So this was just a brief overview on what preprint is, what are the advantages and the disadvantages, how you can potentially use this for your research purpose, and how I used it and how it was beneficial for me. And I'm still using it for my ongoing work. So it has its advantages. The other the other way where you can use the preprint is you don't necessarily have to. Sometimes what happens is that we are medical students, or we are in very early in our training, and we want to get some research competencies. And we all know that publication takes time. at least a year. So sometimes whilst we are in training, we don't have that much time, but we still want to learn. We want to learn how to do literature search or reviews. So you've done a piece of work, but you're still unsure whether this is ready for publication. But because you've done this work, which demonstrates your ability to do a good literature search, to do a good literature review, or even design or formulate a research question. So that shows your ability. It also demonstrates your ability to critically appraise articles, which is one of the skills required not only as a researcher but as a clinician as well. So you've done that work. You can submit that review or a literature review in a preprint, and it's not necessary that you publish it in a journal eventually, but that preprint in itself could be used as an evidence of your ability to do basic research skills, that is literature search, reviews, critical appraisal. So again, this could be one of the ways to demonstrate your research competency. So again, we can be very creative with this, and then let me know if you've got any other thoughts, any other ideas of how you can potentially use preprint, and we can discuss that further. See you again in my next video, which is around which is about literature reviews. So watch out for that. Thank you very much. Take care. Bye bye.